Hello, welcome to HMIS 101A Singles How to Complete a Universal Data Element Assessment, also known as the Maricopa UDE Assessment. I am your trainer, HMIS Program Specialist, Aaron Tarango. For the remainder of this webinar, we'll be working in the Client Point module within Service Point. This is a section of Service Point where you will enter new clients and access existing client records. We will go through step-by-step on how to correctly enter a client into your project or grant and complete the Maricopa UDE assessment as well as the Universal Exit Assessment. Please note that if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at the HMIS Help Desk via email at hmisupport@cir.org or by phone or text at 602-908-3605. Thank you. Now let's get started. Once you log into the system, it will automatically take you to the homepage dashboard. If you work with multiple projects or grants, you will need to go to the right side of your screen to Enter Data As, click the link, and locate the project or grant you need to enter data into, and then click the green plus sign to the left side of the project grant name. Right below Enter Data As, you have the Backdate module. This module will be used when entering historical data. For example, today is December 12th, 2016, and my client's date of project entry was on December 10th, 2016. I will click on the Backdate link and backdate to December 10th, 2016. Notice the timestamp automatically populates for you. If you work overnight, please be mindful of the timestamp as it may affect reporting. Once I click Set Backdate, my banner will change to a bright yellow color and will remain this color while in backdate mode. Please note the Maricopa HMIS Data Quality Plan says that new client information must be entered within 5 business days. Next, I will go to the menu bar and click on the Client Point module. My first step will be to search for my client through the client search either by name or HMIS client ID number. For this example, my client will be Tony Perkis. When we fill out the name data quality field, your options are full name reported, partial street name or code name reported. This option is mostly used for outreach project. Client doesn't know. This means that the client does not know their name. Client refused. The client refused to give you their name. Data not collected. For this option, it means that at some point during the intake interview, this data was not collected. The last 3 options will be seen throughout the UDE assessment. Please keep in mind that they are all considered missed data in reports when recorded. If your client identifies by 2 different names, you may put their second name in the text field box marked alias. If client does not know their social security number or refuses to give it to you, please leave the social security number text field box blank. If the client provided the last 4 of the social security number, that's okay. Just be sure to use the social security number data quality field to document what the client reported to you. The options for social security data quality are full social security number data reported, approximate or partial social security number reported. This can be used for when clients provide the last 4 of their social. Client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. The military veteran question should only be answered for anyone over the age of 18. If the client is under 18, please leave the answer default as select. Please never check the exact match box when searching for a client within the system. This can limit the client results and possibly lead to creating a duplicate client. If a duplicate client record is created or found, contact the help desk and we can merge the profiles. Once all of this information is filled, click Search. If your client already exists in the system, they will show up at the bottom. And please use the existing profile if that is the case. My client does not exist in the system yet, so I will then click Add New Client with this information and then click OK. After clicking OK, the system will automatically take me to the Client Profile tab. Within the Client Profile tab, I can view all the information within the client record, and to the far right of the client record, I have the ability to upload a picture of my client and attach to my client's profile by clicking the Change button. Also on the Client Profile tab, you will find the Client Demographics section. This section will be blank the first time a client is entered into ServicePoint. Please do not ever use the Edit pencil icon to the left of Client Demographics to add or edit client information. This information will automatically fill in or change when an entry is created into your project through the EntryExit tab. AZ Client Notes is a tool in the system used by some, but not all agencies to create client progress notes. Client Notes is a generic notes section. Please do not use this unless specified by your supervisor to do so. File Attachments is a tool that can be used to attach items such as birth certificates, identification cards, and other important documents to the client's profile page. The Incidents tab will be further discussed in the Case Management 200 series. When I scroll up, other tabs that can be found in client information are the Households tab. Agencies serving families will use this tab to either create new households or to update existing households. Agencies not serving families can skip this tab. If you work with families as well and would like to learn more information about creating households, you may visit our HMIS 101B How to Complete a UDE Families training video. The Entries Exits tab. This tab captures when a client enters and exits a provider's project or grant. The Case Managers tab is where staff can assign themselves as a client's case manager electronically. You can learn more about this feature in the Case Management 200 training series. The Case Plans tab is where goals can be set for clients. Again, you can learn more about this feature in the Case Management 200 training series. The Measurements tab is where you may find additional measurement tools for collection of data like the Self-Sufficiency Matrix, the SPDAT, and the FSPDAT. Only approved users have access to this tab. Above these tabs, you'll find Service Transactions. This is where all referrals and services can be recorded and viewed, along with clients' shelter stays if your agency uses the ShelterPoint module. You can learn more about this feature in the Case Management 201 and 202 training series. Now I will go over to the EntryExit tab and enter my client into my project. I will first click on the Add EntryExit tab. Next to Provider, make sure your agency or project name is correct. If it's not correct, then you're not in Enter Data As. Your entry type will always be HUD. Please be sure your entry date is correct. If it's not correct, you're not in backdate mode. Once you've ensured all these elements are correct, press Save and Continue. Please note if your project or grant has to complete any custom assessments, they will be located underneath Select an Assessment. Otherwise, the Maricopa Universal Data Elements or UDE Assessment will open by default. Maricopa UDE Assessment Questions. Relationship to Head of Household. Specify the client's relationship to the head of household. Since you are primarily working with singles, it should be self. However, your other options are head of household's child, head of household's spouse or partner, head of household's other relation member, other relation to head of household, other non-relation member, data not collected. Date of birth. Specify what kind of date of birth was provided above. If the client cannot give you a date of birth, ask their age and approximate the date of birth using 0101 for the month and day. Date of birth type. Specify what type of date of birth they reported to you. Your options are full date of birth reported, approximate or partial date of birth reported, client doesn't know, Client refused, data not collected. Primary race. Specify from the list of races which is the primary race of your client. This question has detailed information about how HUD defines these races if you hover over the question. Your options are American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, white, client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. Secondary race. Specify from the list of races which is the secondary race of your client, if they report one. If they do not, then leave this question as select. Do not duplicate the primary race. Ethnicity. Specify the ethnicity of your client, either Hispanic or non-Hispanic. If your client reports their race is Hispanic, put a primary race of white and an ethnicity of Hispanic. Specify the gender of your client. Your options are female, male, transgender male to female, transgender female to male, doesn't identify as male, female, or transgender, or data not collected. If they report something other than what is on the list of 4 options, then choose does not identify as male, female, or transgender. Does the client have a disabling condition? Choose yes or no for whether your client has reported a disability. There is additional information about HUD's definition of disabilities if you hover over the question. Please see your handout on documenting disabilities. If covered by Access, enter ID number. If your client is currently receiving Access Health Insurance, use the text field box to list their Access ID number only. Homelessness primary reason. Specify the primary reason the client reports for their homelessness. Your options are aged out of foster care, client doesn't know, client not homeless, client refused, criminal activity, domestic violence, economic, evicted, family dispute or overcrowding, loss of job, medical condition, mental health, move to seek work, natural disaster or fire, release from jail or prison, relocated, substance abuse, trafficking or exploitation. Residence prior to project entry. Specify the type of residence or non-residence your client slept at last night. Homelessness situation. Place not meant for habitation. Emergency shelter, including hotel or motel paid for with emergency shelter voucher. Safe haven. Interim housing. Institutional situation. Foster care home or foster care group home. Hospital or other residential non-psychiatric medical facility. Jail, prison, or juvenile detention facility. Long-term care facility or nursing home. Psychiatric hospital or other psychiatric facility. Substance abuse treatment facility or detox center. Transitional and permanent housing situation. Hotel or motel paid for without emergency shelter voucher. Owned by client, no ongoing housing subsidy. Owned by client with ongoing housing subsidy. Permanent housing for formerly homeless persons. Rental by client, no ongoing housing subsidy. Rental by client with VASH subsidy. Rental by client with GPD TIP subsidy. Rental by client with other ongoing housing subsidy. Residential project or halfway house with no homeless criteria. Staying or living in a family member's room, apartment, or house. Staying or living in a friend's room, apartment, or house. Transitional housing for homeless persons, including homeless youth. Client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. stay in previous place? How long did they stay in the residence reported above? Your options are 1 night or less, 2 to 6 nights, 1 week or more but less than 1 month, 1 month or more but less than 90 days, 90 days or more but less than 1 year, 1 year or longer, client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. Approximate date homelessness started. The date the most recent episode of homelessness began. Regardless of where they stayed last night, number of times the client has been on the streets, in emergency shelter, or in safe haven in the past 3 years, including today. How many times has the client been homeless in the past 3 years? Your options are 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 or more times, client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. Total number of months homeless, on the street, in emergency shelter, or in safe haven in the past 3 years. How many months has your client been homeless in the past 3 years? Please remember here, if your client is homeless 1 day in a calendar month, they are homeless that entire month. Your options are 1 month, this time is the first month, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months, more than 12 months, client does not know, client refused, data not collected. Zip code of the last permanent address. Last permanent address according to HUD is where the client resided for 90 days or more. A list of generic zip codes can be used by hovering over the zip code question. Client location. This refers to the Maricopa Continuum of Care Code AZ-502. There is only one answer for this question. Please be sure to select it. Once all of this information is complete, you will then click Save at the bottom right-hand corner. Once you hit Save and Exit, it takes you back to your EntryExit tab. You will now see an entry for your client into your project. A couple of days have passed and my client is ready to be exited from my project. I'm going to say my client exited as of today's date, so I will go ahead and click the red X to the right of the date we are currently backdated to get out of backdate mode. Once I'm in my client profile, I will go to the EntryExit tab and click on the Edit Exit pencil icon to exit my client from my project. The reason for leaving. Why did my client leave my project? Completed program, criminal activity or violence, death, disagreement with rules or persons, diverted from homeless services, left for housing opportunity before completing program, needs could not be met, non-compliance with program, non-payment of rent, other, reached maximum time allowed, unknown, disappeared. Diverted from homeless services cannot be used unless you are a coordinated entry project. Destination. Where will my client be going to? Deceased. Emergency shelter including hotel or motel paid for with emergency shelter voucher. Foster care home or foster care group home. Hospital or residential non-psychiatric medical facility. Hotel or motel paid for without emergency shelter voucher. Jail, prison, or juvenile detention facility. Long-term care facility or nursing home. Moved from one HOPWA funded program to HOPWA permanent housing. Moved from one HOPWA funded project to Hopwa transitional housing, owned by client, no ongoing housing subsidy, owned by client with ongoing housing subsidy, permanent housing for formerly homeless persons, place not meant for habitation, psychiatric hospital or other psychiatric facility, rental by client, no ongoing housing subsidy, rental by client with VASH subsidy, rental by client with GPD TIP subsidy, rental by client with other ongoing housing subsidy, residential project or halfway house with no homeless criteria, safe haven, staying or living with family permanent tenure, staying or living with family temporary tenure, staying or living with friends permanent tenure, staying or living with friends temporary tenure, substance abuse treatment facility or detox center, transitional housing for homeless persons, including homeless youth, other, no exit interview completed, client doesn't know, client refused, data not collected. Permanent tenure refers to a permanent stay, while temporary tenure refers to a short stay. Rental by client with other ongoing housing subsidy is considered rapid rehousing or Section 8 housing. Rental by client with VASH subsidy and rental by client with GPD TIP are veteran-specific projects. Once your edit exit data is complete, click Save and Continue. Depending on your agency workflow, your exit assessment may be different. In most cases, the Universal Exit Assessment will default. You may have a few extra questions to answer. Once you've answered them, you're done. Click Save and Exit. Again, this will take you to the EntryExit tab and you will see an exit date for your client. By following these steps and working through the system, you have completed HMIS 101A Singles, How to Complete a UDE or Universal Data Elements Assessment. You may log out of the system at this point. As a reminder, here are some key points to keep in mind. According to the Maricopa HMIS Data Quality Plan, you must enter clients into the system within 5 business days of interaction. The U.S. military veteran question is initially answered on the client search screen, but it can also be found on the client profile screen. When creating an entry, you must go through the EntryExit tab. Client demographic information should never be entered on the client demographic section on the client profile tab. HUD considers zip code of a last permanent address to be 90 days or more. Remember these points when completing the length of time on streets in an emergency shelter or safe haven section. When entering the date the client's current episode of homelessness started, you may use their current entry day into your project if they cannot remember the exact day. For example, if their entry date to your project was 10/3/2015, but they only remember their last episode of homelessness starting in May, then you can put the start date of 5/3/2015. When documenting homelessness primary reason, only use client not homeless for diversion or homeless prevention. Add up the accumulated months of homelessness during the past 3 years, where the client was either living on the streets, in an emergency shelter, or a safe haven. A single day or part of a month counts as one full month for this question. When creating an exit, be sure to go through the EntryExit tab and use the Edit Exit pencil icon when your client to exit your client from your project. Lastly, under Residence Prior to Project Entry, you will find Interim Housing. Interim housing is a housing situation where a chronically homeless person has applied for permanent housing, but for which there is some other situation that prevents them from moving in immediately. To keep the client engaged, transitional housing is used until the client can move into their permanent housing. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at the HMIS Help Desk via email at hmissupport@cir.org or by phone or text at 602-908-3605.